I want to switch gears to the campaign again, but you're so right on that, and I'm worried about Alberta because, Preston Manning, his answer was the West wants in. That was a reaction and a rebuttal to the West wants out, Doug Christie's Western Canada concept. In a way, Stephen Harper, his message was, I'll bring you in. We don't even need to say the message. The West will be in, and there'll be peace, and there was. And actually, Quebec separatism died under Stephen Harper too. But I don't even think. What could Jason Kenney say? What could Brad Wall say if Trudeau is reelected again? Because not only will it factually the pipeline be stopped, but why would Trudeau be wrong if he said, "You have vindicated me. You have vindicated me on the substance of blocking pipelines and the carbon tax."
Every barista in downtown Toronto who has no clue where the money comes from to buy the coffee they're pushing, has decided they don't want pipelines because those are messy. We now have the idea about natural resources that we have had for many generations about the food in the grocery store.
Right.
We don't like the idea that cattle are butchered, but we sure love beef.
Yeah.
And we've made this great disconnect between, milk involves milking cattle.
Yeah.
They don't involve milking cows, but we don't like to think of that. Milk is just produced in the back, behind those swinging doors near the produce section.
Yeah.
And so we love to have all of the fancy social programs and the big government spending that is funded in large part by natural resources, not just oil and gas, but also by mining, forestry, all the things that we have in plentitude in Canada. We love to have all that, but now there's a whole generation of people. In fact, we're on to the second generation of people who have no clue where that comes from.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about the wealth that comes from oil. Let's just talk about the oil itself. I'd like to see the fancy pants who fly every day out of Toronto Pearson Airport or Vancouver's airport. Let's go without jet fuel for 1 month and see how you guys do.
Let the Liberal campaign go without jet fuel for one of its.
That's really good. They got
one
two jets.
I don't care. They can have the other one.
Well, you bring me back to the point I was going to make. Apparently, having two campaign jets, one for all Trudeau's stuff, in addition to one for the people, it was not only the worst kept secret in the press gallery this time, but he did it in 2015 as well, but not a single media outlet covered it. And I saw Althea Raj of the CBC and an American gossip site, Huffington Post. Althea Raj said, I thought everyone knew. I mean, come on, everyone's talking about it, but it's not news. Yeah, it is news, sister, because you didn't publish it. But it made me think of this, and I'd like your answer on this, my friend. When Time magazine published the blackface photo of Trudeau as Aladdin in blackface. I've watched the Aladdin movie. He ain't black, but Trudeau blacked him up. So Time magazine published that. It was quite a thing, and it happened in the evening, I remember. It was very exciting. And Trudeau actually was on the plane when it broke, and he had a mid-aircraft press conference, quite dramatic. Within an hour, Lorne, Global News released a video they obviously had before, a video. The blackface video. And then I think it was the CBC that released another blackface photo of Trudeau when he was younger. So
nice.
Here's my point, and it's the same point I was making about Althea Raj keeping the secret for Trudeau about the two planes. Time magazine published. Obviously the CBC and Global had their blackface photo in their pocket that they had not chosen to publish. They only did after Time broke the cartel of silence, the conspiracy of silence. That's outrageous to me. That's a deeply racist thing, blackface. It has a special meaning. It's not just someone dressing up in like a cowboy. It has a meaning rooted in what blacks were as slaves and their place as slaves. And the fact that the media withheld that tells me, how could you trust a damn thing they say?
The one that really bothers me is the video of him with a T-shirt that has bananas on the front, an afro wig, and blackface.
Right.
Because he's clearly implying that black people are apes.
Yeah.
And maybe no one was sitting on that. Maybe someone had that on their phone.
No. Global had that.
Blackface thing came out.
That was the low-res version. Global had the low-res version, and the Star later released the high-res version. Global had that.
Yeah, I mean, the point that I think is salient is not that that they had it and they didn't release it. I think that's wrong. I think that's doctoring the news. I think that approach is fake news because you aren't telling the whole truth.
Right.
The point is this makes sense, I think, if you're sitting in downtown Toronto, where Justin Trudeau is still much beloved.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense if you're sitting in Ottawa, where you think your job is on the line and your prominent place in Canadian policy and culture is dependent on the Liberals winning again. And it makes sense if you're in Montreal, where this is your native son. Remember the old U.S. Presidential conventions, the nominating conventions, they would say, this great state of Iowa casts all its 172 votes for the native son. That's the sort of attitude they have towards Trudeau there. But outside that, the rest of the country is very different. And unfortunately, there are just enough seats in Atlantic Canada, the Golden Triangle, and Vancouver proper to return the Liberals. And, then their media buddies are going to be claiming, as they did for years and years and years and years and years, they're a national party.
Yeah.
They're the only national party.
That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show, which is a show I do every day. I do a monologue, interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at premium.rebelnews.com.